49ers go, but I agree with Phil. You are outnumbered because quarterbacks are the best and most important part of a football team. What I want to see is all those number twos that have now become number ones, the Scott Mitchells, the Cody Carlsons, the Dave Browns. How well are they going to do, and how well are they going to handle the pressure of now being the stars of the team?
Well, Joe, we know that Jim Kelly is the #1 quarterback of the Bills, and we know the Bills have gone to the Super Bowl 4 straight times. We also know the Bills have lost 4 straight times to NFC East teams. Hello, McFly. Get it, AFC. If you're going to beat the Buffalo Bills, you have to play NFC East-style football. And in the AFC this offseason, only 3 teams kept building that way. New England with Bill Parcells. His former offensive coordinator has been hired down there by the Steelers with Ron Earhart, so the Steelers are there. San Diego Chargers still being built by Bobby Beathard. The Bills get beat in January. It's going to be one of those 3 teams, Chris.
Yeah, but the fly in the ointment, if I will, Mort, and the story of the season really is Dallas. Jimmy Johnson, obviously great coach, built a great team. He's not there. Can Switzer do the job? Yeah, Jimmy may be gone, but 2 of the top 5 players in pro football, if you name the 5, 2 of them be Emmitt Smith, Troy Aikman. The team's still young. They're fast. They got most of Jimmy's assistants. They got the will to win. Can they do what no other team has ever done? Win 3 straight Super Bowls. Not even Pittsburgh, San Francisco, Miami, or Green Bay was able to do that. And speaking of the pack, they have their eyes on the NFC Central crown, which would put them right behind the Cowboys and 49ers as Super Bowl contenders. But in a wild 18-hour run yesterday, they were with Sterling Sharp, who hasn't done much the last 2 seasons except catch 220 passes. Our Andrea Kramer is in Green Bay, where the Pack will host Minnesota. She got the first word last night that Sharp had returned from his contract walkout. Andrea, what a scenario to start the season.
Thank you very much, Chris. The consensus here in Green Bay, with all the distractions of the week and with the roller coaster that yesterday was, he's gone, he's here, will he play? The Packers can't wait for this game to begin. Sterling Sharp arrived here at Lambeau Field about 8:30 a.m. Central, hopped into the whirlpool, and it appeared to be business as usual. Mike Holmgren said this morning he will start, but will there be any lingering bitterness toward the man who just yesterday, quarterback Brett Favre said, quote, walked out on us?
I don't know if it's ever right to walk out on your players or anyone the day before a big game. We need Sterling. He's a great football player. And for him to do that, you know, I think players sometimes lose some trust in someone. And I haven't talked to him yet, but I think me and him need to sit down before this game and talk it out, because the last 2 years, obviously, we've probably been the best passing combination in the history of the NFL, and we'd like to continue that.
I don't think there was any bitterness on the team's part, and I would hope there would be none on Sterling's part. Like I said, I haven't had a chance to talk to him about it, and we all understand the business side of this business, and so I hope that it's done now and we can get on with the business at hand.
The turning point was that cooler heads prevailed, I think, and Mike Holmgren did an excellent job along with Sterling Sharp and his representatives.
Is the contract finalized?
An agreement has been finalized, yes. It's verbal as far as I know.
As for the Vikings, interestingly enough, they always believed that Sharp would play today. And that's not such good news for them, because on one side at corner, they're playing a rookie in Dwayne Washington, and on the other side, a journeyman in Anthony Parker. Chris, that's it from Green Bay. Let's head back to you.
All right, Andrew, good job as always. She's always in the midst of a storm. Speaking of storms, Mort, yeah, I think in this situation, Mike Holmgren and Ron Wolf, even if you disagree with them, as Sterling Sharp and his people did, these are 2 guys you can look in the eye, Mort, and trust their word. And I think that went a long way into solving it, don't you?
Well, I'll tell you what, Mike Holmgren solved this. He would not let go of Sterling Sharp yesterday. He got the 2 sides together, and this thing broke down late Friday because Sharp wanted a $7 million bonus right now, and he did reach an agreement yesterday. It will not impact the salary cap this year, so it's safe to assume he's going to get a nice lump sum bonus at the start of next season. He still has 7 years left on the deal. Now, everybody's asking about Deion Sanders. He's in a holding pattern. There's a strong sense, though, that he wants to return to the Falcons. And all I can tell you is that when nameplates went up in the Georgia Dome locker room this week, even though they're not playing there, yes, they put up a Deion nameplate. And if you want to know how the 49ers and Broncos have managed the salary cap, so do other teams. There have been formal complaints lodged against both teams, Broncos and 49ers. And then anyone assuming Andre Ware will finally wind up with the Oilers better think again. The Oilers don't believe he can play in this league. I think he's out of chances for now. Look for the Oilers to sign Billy Joe Tolliver or Bob Galliano instead. And I'll tell you what, great matchup in Detroit today, Chris. Lomas Brown against Chris Doman, now with the Falcons. Doman doesn't like the Falcons scheme. He called Tony Dungy twice, complaining to his old defensive coordinator that he misses Minnesota. So they have to get through that.
Well, money coming to the forefront a lot more this year. Nice suit, by the way, speaking of money.
Thank you very much.
Money issues were also prime in Philadelphia this week, and we're not talking Eddie money. New owner Jeff Lurie said to 6 players who had made the 53-man roster, he wanted to go back and do it all over, as in have 6 players take a 30% pay cut to help the team with the cap, including the starter at right tackle Broderick Thompson. To call it a distraction before the divisional game against the Giants would be a real understatement. As for New York, a new era begins. Their longtime quarterback is here with us, and Dave Brown gets the start. For us, a new era as well, as we are very proud to welcome a longtime friend to our side of the tracks. Leslie Visser makes her game day debut from the Meadowlands. Good morning, Leslie.
Thanks, Chris. I am thrilled to be joining all of you. Usually I'm here looking for Phil Simms, so I'm glad he's going to be with us every Sunday. As Phil knows, the Giants have a new linebacking core and a new secondary, but the big question is at quarterback. Dave Brown has never thrown an NFL touchdown pass, and he knows that Bud Carson's defense will be coming. A little while ago, I asked Dan Reeves about his rookie commander.
Dave has adjusted well. I think that's one of the things that is going to make him a good quarterback in this league, is he seems to learn from every situation, and you know, we just got to try to keep him calm and hopefully give him some help, because the supporting cast around him is going to make the difference in the game.
Well, that supporting cast will include quite a few handoffs to Rodney Hampton, but Brown feels that with his height, 6'5", and mobility, that will be an advantage. Well, a little while later, I'll have more on the other quarterback, the biggest name in this game, Randall Cunningham. Chris?
All right, Leslie, welcome aboard. Dave Brown replacing Phil Simms for the Giants is only the tip of the iceberg. 22 quarterback changes, 10 new starters. Since the end of the 92 season, 7 teams have dumped both starter and backup. Who is throwing where? Maybe we can help. Congratulations, Buffalo Bills, and congratulations, Jim Kelly and Frank Wright, the only starter backup quarterback tandem to survive the fury of free agency. Everyone's changing quarterbacks, everyone except the Buffalo Bills.
It's kind of like a whole puzzle right now.
Quarterback shuffle.
Falcons lose Miller. Salvage George for Mindy. Rams give up on Everett. Take Chris. Backed up by Chris. Maddox made expendable and Mile High by Millen. Back with Buddy. Ono backing up Joe. Skins back to square one. Jump rip, now a Brown. Conklin and Gannon golfing.
You the man!
In 94, 21 teams have changed either starter or backup. Who went where?
Yeah, we know where everybody is.
Dave Craig.
Geez.
Number 17 was in Seattle, then KC.
You got me.
Ex-Chief Craig Alliant, flashing signals to ex-Fish Mitchell. Marino's new backup, Fernie. Aikman's.
Hello.
Pete. Gone, Gino. Ditto, Peter, Tom, Billy Joe. Billy Joe, status quo. Nowhere near the Tallahatchie Bridge. Jim Harbaugh.
Well, that's an easy one. Indianapolis.
Scott Mitchell.
It's easy. Detroit.
Chris Chandler.
That's a little bit tougher. I was going to say Phoenix. Let me try another one.
Andre Ware.
Green Bay? Tampa Bay. Andre Ware. That's a good one.
Truth, high-priced veterans and endangered species. Consequence, backup Skurback, Walsh, Hollis, Gilbert, Graham, Detmer, Richardson.
A heartbeat away.
Trudeau goes Colts to Jets. Nagel Jets to Colts. 1 spot behind Magic.
Thought he had left.
2 behind Jim Harbaugh. 73% pay cut to quarterback the Colts.
He's talented.
93. Led worst offense in football.
He's gifted.
Career quarterback rating 74.2.
He's a winner.
Career record 35-30.
And he was available.
Saints pick Jim Everett.
He was a lot cheaper than Brett Favre or Scott Mitchell.
When have so many done so little and made so much, besides Congress? Gail Gilbert.
I have not studied for that test.
I don't try to follow all these guys.
Rodney Peete.
Don't care.
Survey says.
Gilbert votes Bills for Bolts. Strom shuffles off to Buffalo, where, may we remind you, resides the model of quarterback consistency. Meanwhile, Miller $1 million more to move. Wilson $1 million less to stay. Kosar replaced Mitchell, who got a 1,084% raise, but lost World Bowl II to Sacramento. Chris Miller.
Rams.
Jim McMahon.
Phoenix.
San Diego backup.
Gail Gilbert.
Boring.
Did I miss one on purpose for the sake of television, huh?
Next season, who quarterbacks the Carolina Panthers?
Have no clue.
Frank Reich, very interested.
It's very doubtful that he'll be back.
And so this too shall pass.
And Frank, look a little happier.
Why, I'm the backup. He started making all the money.
Well, I guess program sales will be up this year. Now, guys, take a good look. Joe Theisman, Phil Simms. Because next year, Joe Montana, Boomer Esiason. That's obviously going to be the situation. We'll tell you what, we started talking about Sterling Sharp at the head of the show. This was the scene just a few moments ago. 11:04 Central Time at Lambeau Field. Sterling Sharp came out in uniform for the Pack against the Vikes. Mixture of boos and cheers, but obviously there he is. If seeing is believing, believe that. Perhaps the quarterback change that will make the biggest impact, the guy opposing Sharp in the Packers today, Warren Moon with the Vikings. We'll examine that move in depth when we come back. And the Cowboys. Jimmy's gone, Barry Switzer's in. Is it a big loss or is it business as usual? Who's going to grab the reins? Question to be answered.
I ain't a savior for anybody. I mean, it's not like I'm carrying, you know, I'm running in there with the flag trying to save this franchise.
I'm looking forward to the season like a slug looks forward to the rain. I'm talking about the NFL season. I'm talking about brawn and brain. Reggie White, Steve Young, Barry Foster, and players with much longer names. Yeah, I'm looking forward to the season, and especially the two-point conversion. I wrote that.
You know, a lot of people think this is too warm to wear to the beach, but I got a job to do.
Sherwin-Williams matches paint colors to anything. Fruits to suits, prints to mints, hats to cats. Use your imagination during Sherwin-Williams Fall Kickoff Sale with classic 99 interior flat latex, $12.99 a gallon. At Sherwin-Williams.
NFL Game Day is brought to you by Coors Light. When you want a taste that goes the distance, reach for the silver bullet. Coors Light. Keep on moving.
Welcome back to Game Day. The defending champion Dallas Cowboys start what they hope will be their drive towards a three-peat in a classic setting. Among the ghosts and legends of the Pittsburgh Steelers at Three River Stadium in a late start this afternoon. Now, some think this could be Super Bowl 29 matchup in Miami, and actually that would be fitting since two of the best ever Super Bowls 10 and 13, were between these two teams, both in Miami. Of course, the Orange Bowl, both games, of course, the Steelers won. Now, you may remember Terry Bradshaw had big games in those Super Bowl. What is Terry doing these days? I wonder what he's doing right now, by the way. But who cares about Terry? For the occasion, we brought in the real heart and soul of the Steelers, our Mark Malone. Mark?
Well, thank you, Boomer. You're too kind. You know, the real heart and soul of this Steeler team is Rod Woodson, and he'll shadow Michael Irvin today. That leaves Dion Figures, the second-year cornerback, locked in a man-to-man battle with Alvin Harper, and that should be a good matchup. A couple of questions coming in for the Dallas Cowboys today. On offense, right guard Derek Kennard, who replaces Kevin Gogan, and center Mark Stebnowski, who only played a half this preseason, is coming off of knee surgery. Look for the Steelers' defense to exploit the inside of the Cowboys with the blitz. Defensively, the Cowboys seem to be concerned about how Robert Jones, their middle linebacker, who replaces Ken Norton Jr., can handle Barry Foster and the Steelers' physical running game. And, you know, neither Tom Landry nor Jimmy Johnson won his first game as the Cowboys' head coach. And when I talked to Barry Switzer yesterday, he seemed a little bit nervous. How his Cowboys react when the bullets start flying today, I think, is the biggest question mark. Mort?
Hey, bullets, Mark. How about some explosives, TNT or something? There were hints in the preseason that Jimmy Johnson really was missed by the Cowboys as their head coach. But this is for real now, and really, who knows what will happen until there's a midseason crisis, until there's a critical decision in the heat of the big game. We really won't know whether Barry Switzer can pull it off, or if he has to.
It's irrelevant to players who the coach has. I promise you. They don't care who the coach has. I promise you that. And it's their team. It's not my team. It's not Jerry's team. It wasn't Jimmy's team. It's the players.
The truth is, Jimmy Johnson did run this team. often with an iron fist. At Oklahoma, Barry Switzer was accused of using kid gloves. In Dallas, the players still don't have a read on Switzer, so they have decided to police and motivate themselves.
We look at it and say, why don't we go out and perform at a certain level and prove to everyone that we had as much to do with the success that we've had over the last couple of years as anybody did.
You know, when Jimmy was here, I mean, it was like guys walking on eggshells, and they knew they couldn't mess up. And it's still that same way, because they know if a guy mess up now, they don't have to worry about the coach getting on them, because the players are going to actually get on them.
Case in point, preseason, second week, Raiders take a 20-9 halftime lead over the Cowboys. With Johnson, that would have been intolerable. The reaction the players expected never came from Switzer.
I think Barry was laid back, and that's his style. Where Jimmy would have been jumping down a lot of the young guys' throat, saying, hey, this is do or die for you, fella. You either do it or you die, which is out of here.
Next issue, Jimmy Johnson often fought off-field battles with owner Jerry Jones. Johnson may have been disloyal to the owner, but he gained the team's loyalty. Will Switzer?
We all assume because Jimmy did it this way and we got a new guy that he's not going to be able to handle some of these situations, and I don't think that's necessarily correct. But there is no doubt that with Jimmy, a lot of the things, you know, he put out a lot of fires before they ever trickled down to the players.
Example, Jones claims he made an honest error for the preseason Mexico City trip in chartering a plane that was too small and consequently resulted in a 4-hour delay for the return home. Players were livid. Some suspected Jones was cutting costs. One player called the commissioner's office to complain. To the team, Switzer seemed indifferent.
I could have jumped up at 3 o'clock in the morning, rolled my eyes back, dog-cussed the coaches, and the Mexican officials, and Jerry Jones. Is he making any money off this? But I tried to act responsible, logical, to come back and get the facts. Why did this happen? So I did. I came back and I asked the right people, got the right answers, found out what did happen. Hey, so I told the team exactly what happened. And in the future, look to me.
Because Switzer must still gain their respect, the players have been more inclined to look to their quarterback on and off the field.
I feel that there are a lot of players on this football team that look to me to kind of make the tough decisions and be the guy who, you know, I don't always want to have to deal with some of the situations that arise, but the players look to me to be able to handle that for all of us on all of our behalf.
A couple of things here. Jerry Jones is very conscious that he is creating an image problem there. He has decided he's going to visit the sidelines less this season, so he's going to give Barry a little breathing room. Now, Troy Aikman has taken over this team. He's also embraced Barry Switzer as the coach. But I know, Phil, in visiting the San Francisco 49ers a week ago, George Seifert told me that the year after Bill Walsh left, the players took over that team. Joe Montana, Ronnie Lott took over the team. Can it happen with the Cowboys?
Well, in 1989, that worked for the 49ers. They go and win the Super Bowl. But I can tell you another experience. In 1990, Bill Parcells leaves. Ray Hanley comes in, turns it over to the players, 8-8. Down in Dallas, this whole offseason and this preseason, everything you read and hear about, the Cowboy, I can see it in the Cowboys players, the things they're saying. They're tired of hearing about Jimmy Johnson. He's the reason why they won 2 Super Bowls. Those players are determined to come out and show that they can play and they can win without Jimmy. And the one thing, the greatest strength that Barry Switzer has as a coach, his greatest forte, he is a great motivator. So when he needs to use this, he will use it, and it will work for the Cowboys. Joe?
You know, Phil, one of the things that I find so unique about this situation is when you really look at the numbers, just purely the numbers, the Dallas Cowboys have lost 7 starters from their starting 22 in the Super Bowl. That's going to hurt. Players like to look at one another to get excited, to get inspired, but sooner or later the coach is going to have to step in and kick some butt. My question is, Barry got the foot to put the kick into the Cowboys when he has to.
And as players, we all know sometimes a ball player misses that swift kick at the proper time. But I don't care who the coach of this team is now susceptible to the run game. They lost Tony Casillas, Jimmy Jones, Kenny Norton Jr. They're no longer going to be able to dictate to offenses the way they have the last 2 years, and that's a problem Barry Switzer is going to have to deal with immediately.
Well, you know what Bill Cowher is doing today, Tommy? Barry Foster, 25 to 30 carries up. They've got Eric Green back, the tight end holdout, back to block. Gary Anderson, the kicker, in a close game back against the free agent rookie kicker, Chris Boniel. So it's a close game on the ground with kicking. Pittsburgh does have the edge there today. Another key ingredient missing from the Cowboys this year, offensive coordinator Norv Turner, who begins his run as head coach of the Washington Redskins at home against Seattle. For Washington these days, the new motto is the future is the future. as Heath Schuler will be the quarterback, although John Freese starts today. The Seahawks are in the same shoes, only a year ahead. Rick Meyer looks like the real deal at QB. I think Seattle, this year's sleeper, good defense, and don't forget a fifth-place schedule. Team that needs a fifth-place schedule but can't get one because they're in a four-team division, the Los Angeles Rams. They were the only team to have a winless preseason. Nothing new, they were winless last preseason as well. They host the Cardinals, who have a new name, Arizona, which does put them first, at least alphabetically. They also have a new coach, Buddy Ryan. You heard of him? Which puts them first in bravado. They also have some of Buddy's old Eagles, Seth Joyner and Clyde Simmons. And they also have an early schedule, which if things break right for them, could have them 4-0 before they play Dallas in Week 6. The Giants and the Vikings at home in the heat of Tempe. Cleveland on the road before the winds kick in Cleveland. So good schedule for the Cards coming out. We'll have an in-depth look at Buddy and the Cardinals next week on NFL Game Day. This week, when we return, we'll look at Randall Cunningham back at the helm of the Philadelphia Eagles in almost a make-or-break season for him. We will examine. We'll head back to Leslie at the Meadowlands and much more here on Game Day.
One moment our kids are in their room across the hall. Next moment they're across the country. Is it lonely for them? Exciting? As parents, we want them to call home as easily as they used to call us from the backyard.
AT&T announces True Ties. It's an affordable personal 800 number for your home, so loved ones can call you freely and you pay for the call. A True Ties 800 number costs just $4.50 a month plus usage. Call now and you'll get 20% off all your 800 calls. Sign up today. Call 1-800-ATT-TIES extension 10.
Giving our kids our 800 number says, you're far away, but hey, we're still within earshot.
Sign up for your True Ties personal 800 number today. Call 1-800-ATT-TIES. Call now and you'll get 20% off all your 800 calls. With True Ties, your kids are free to call you anytime.
The real you coming through your true voice.
For a pass play, use the diagram below.
Diagram? What diagram?
Forget about that. You just need to know your players. You have to trust them.
All right, now you just fade back, find your target, and...
Want some real excitement? Order ABC college football games on pay-per-view in addition to the game on your local ABC station. Check Friday's sports section of USA Today for games available in your area, or call your local cable company today.
I'm pretty sure it went in here.
Just around the bend on NFL Game Day, we're loaded. Warren Moon, is he the man the Vikings need to get them into serious Super Bowl contention? Randall Cunningham has missed most of two of the last 3 seasons. Is he ready to lead the Eagles? Speaking of injury, Dan Marino is still gimpy, but can he and the Dolphins get by and dream Super Bowl in their own stadium? New quarterbacks who could make a huge difference. How about Scott Mitchell in Detroit? We've only just begun.
It is time for the big question. What is the extra in Mickey D's Extra Value Meal? Now, some think it's a money thing, $2.99 to be exact. Then there are the brothers and sisters into variety. See, you can get 4 $2.99 Extra Value meals, like Big Mac, cheeseburger, quarter pounder with cheese, and McChicken. And for a large portion of folks, it's the large portion of those world-famous golden fries. But for me,
what you want, what you want, what you want is what you get at McDonald's today.
You know what I'm saying?
Ladies and gentlemen, that was Jamie with a knockout karaoke rendition of Give Me Love.
Yeah, great.
Helen, what are you going to be singing for us?
You might get a chance because you're on the list.
What?
You ought to get a...
No, I'm not going down there.
Yeah! Corey Allen.
He's right here.
Right here. Come on, get up here.
We gave loose-fit Dockers a little more style because there are times when just getting dressed isn't enough.
When somebody loves you, it's no good unless he loves you all the way.
You're not going to go home and leave this half finished, are you?
I got 6 days, Dad. We'll make it.
At Glidden, we know how hard it can be to find time to paint. That's why Spread House Paint is formulated to cover the first time, so you can finish in less time.
I guess you'll be going back early then.
I thought I might stick around for a few days.
All right.
Glidden, a better way to paint.
But don't expect me to cook for you.
You can become a football legend.
Me? A legend?
Enter ESPN's Football Legend Sweepstakes. If you win, you're on the sidelines of 4 ESPN Sunday Night NFL games. You'll join Chris Berman at ESPN's NFL Game Day Studios.
You are a legend.
Thanks, Chris.
You get $10,000 in a commercial on ESPN. And best of all, you get to bring 3 friends everywhere you go, including the Super Bowl. Yeah! ESPN's Football Legend Sweepstakes. Stay tuned for details. Sponsored by Saban, no wrinkle cotton clothing.
Week 1 last season, the Lions crushed the Falcons at the Silverdome 30-13. It started Detroit on a wire-to-wire trip to the NFC Central crown. It started Atlanta on a downward spiral that saw them become the last team to win any game at all in the NFL and cost Jerry Glanville his job. They meet again today, Week 1 at the Silverdome. This year, the Falcons are the last true run-and-shoot team, hiring the father and son of that offense, Mouse Davis and new head coach June Jones. It's kind of like Michelangelo hiring Rembrandt as his color coordinator. In addition to the Lions, both the Packers and the Vikings made the playoffs, making it 3 in the postseason for what we like to call the NFC Norris division. It's hard to call a Week 1 game pivotal, but with the Vikes heading to Lambeau on the soon-to-be frozen tundra, this one could be. As you learned earlier, the Packers already have Sterling Sharp back, but what they don't have in the Mike Holmgren versus Dennis Green era is a win. They're 0-4. Vikes have the Pack's number, and now they also have Warren Moon at quarterback. Certainly Minnesota's best since Tommy Kramer. Maybe it's best since Fran Tarkenton. That being said, Joe, will we see that right away from Warren?
I don't think so, Chris. I think Warren Moon's going to struggle a little bit, but I've watched him from Tokyo in the beginning of preseason all the way up to now. Now, here's a guy with 10 years of NFL experience. You got to figure that a change of address wouldn't be a problem, but when you change the address and the color of the uniform, it creates a lot more problems than even he thought. What's tougher, learning a system or learning the people that are in that system?
I think learning the system. I think I can adjust to people as well as anybody. But I think learning all the mechanics of an offense, learning when or what an offense or a play is trying to do, where it's trying to attack, those are the things I think are the hardest thing to learn.
The footwork for you has got to be some of the biggest adjustments that you have to make. Tell me a little bit about the difference between the run-and-shoot drop back and what you have to do now with the 3- and 5-step drop back.
Okay. Let's just take a 5-step drop to start with. In the run-and-shoot, the 5-step drop is going to be more at a 90-degree angle, so my first step is going to come out probably at like 4 o'clock on a clock instead of straight back in the drop back, so I'm going to come out at an angle like 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. I read the strong side, and if I didn't like it, I'd come back to the weak side. Well,
now in the more
conventional drop back, my first step is going to be more straight back at 6 o'clock, which is going to keep me right behind the center on my drop. So it's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. I read strong side, I don't like it, and I change my feet to come back weak side.
Do you like this offense?
I really do. A lot of versatility, but I'm still learning the strengths and weaknesses of it. See, that's a great catch right there, too. Throw the slant a little behind him. I've never been a quarterback that throws slants, and we throw a zillion slants here. So that's something I had to get used to. Just trying to learn the terminology of the offense. I think that's been my biggest adjustment because we have so many more different formations. We have different personnel changes. Where in the run and shoot, we stayed 4 wides all the time, except for maybe if we got down the goal line, we might put in 2 big linemen at tight end. But we always had the same personnel on the field. Where here, we have 5 different personnel changes.
You talked about rushing the ball a little bit. Tell me about this one here.
This is what we call a fake trap H-pop. And I'm trying to throw this thing too quick. And in the run and shoot, we had to play something like this where we're going to hit our slot real quick. And instead of me letting him get down the field a little bit further, I tried to throw it too quickly and didn't let it develop. And I have a lot of time on this play, too, because of the way our pass action is. It's a play pass. So you do have a lot of time on this to set up and let the thing develop a little bit. And that's what the coaches keep telling me. Okay, you got more time, Warren. You got more time. You don't have to rush it. You don't have to rush it. So those are the things I have to get used to.
Well, he has more time, and we finally caught up with Warren yesterday, talked to him about the progression that he's doing and the changes that have been made and how he feels about it. And this is what he had to say.
As far as the terminology, because we're now into game-type situations every week where we're running only a condensed part of our offense, getting ready for a game, it's a lot easier to get the terminology down as far as certain plays we're going to run against a certain opponent, where when you first go to training camp, they throw the whole playbook at you, and it's a little bit harder to digest. And then with the part of me being patient in the pocket as far as not having to rush my passes as much like I did in the run and shoot because of timing. I'm being more patient with the routes now, understanding that they have to develop, and a lot of the routes do have to develop before I release the football, and then some of them I do have to get out of my hand quickly.
In the run and shoot offense, Warren Moon was forced to be all-pro every week. Without him playing that well, the offense wasn't going to be successful. In Minnesota, Dennis Green has told him, listen, I don't need you to be all-pro every week. Warren has welcomed the new experience. Now listen, Phil, Warren's just one of 10 quarterbacks that are in new homes. There's a couple of guys out there that you really like a lot.
Yeah, there are a couple guys, and I'm going to start with one guy I'm real familiar with, and that's Dave Brown of the New York Giants, a guy who has not started the game in his NFL career, but I've had the luxury of watching Dave in all 5 preseason games, and I'll tell you, there's 2 things that really impressed me about him I've seen. One is vision of the field, and the most remarkable thing I've seen is his poise on the field. And there's a play here, in particular early in the preseason, that shows both of those things. As you can see, he drops back. The thing he does I like about throwing the ball, he is a great long ball thrower. He can put the ball high up in the air and take advantage of defenses. But here you'll see on the play-action fake, Dave's key is to watch the free safety. The free safety should be back in the middle of the field. Dave wants to throw the ball left. As he makes the fake, he sees the free safety has gone left and already taken away his primary receiver. So he looks where the vacant spot is, down the middle of the field, throws a long, high bomb to Chris Callaway for the touchdown. And I tell you, after the preseason, the Giants are ecstatic about the play of Dave Brown. Another guy that I think has found the perfect fit for his skills is Scott Mitchell, coming from Miami going to Detroit. The people in Detroit are ecstatic about Scott Mitchell. Here's a couple plays that show you some of the strengths about Scott. One, at 6'6", he's extremely mobile for a guy this size. In all offseason, all you heard about him and all the teams he went to, everybody was worried about his shoulder because he hurt it last year playing for the Dolphins. Well, you can see throwing off his back foot, 30 yards later down the field for a touchdown. I don't think you have to worry about Scott Mitchell's shoulder. You know, since the days of Greg Landry, the Lion organization, the players, the coaches, and the medias, they know they have a quarterback. And, Joe, they're looking for Scott Mitchell to do for their organization team the same thing Jeff Hostetler is doing with the Raiders, and that's get them to the Super Bowl.
Speaking of shoulders, Phil, how's yours?
Joe, pretty good. How's your alimony payments coming?
Not as good as your shoulder. There's one other guy that I think is going to do very well in his new home, and that's going to be Jeff George down in Atlanta. Here's a guy that adds a quick release to a lot of receivers who can get up the field and get the ball in the end zone. Boom.
Keep me out of that discussion, please. By the way, I think you just threw for 5,000 yards. Jeff George could have 4,000 yards, Joe. Moving right along. George's departure in Indy leaves the Colts with Jim Harbaugh at the helm for their game against the Oilers, who are the other AFC team with a new starter, Commander Cody Carlson and his Lost Planet Airmen. The Colts in December were the worst team in football, but then they had a 4-0 August. You say, so what? Well, since 1980, 20 teams have gone undefeated in the preseason. 12 of them, 60%, have made the playoffs. Go Colts. The other 4-0 team this preseason, Chicago Bears. Only 45 points allowed in August, and a beefed-up running game to complement their new quarterback, Eric Kramer. They host Game Day's favorites, the Tampa Bay Buccaneers, who have lost 10 or more games for 11 straight seasons. But Coach Sam Weiss says they'll make the playoffs, something Dave Wannstedt feels about his team, although he's a lot quieter about it. Last season in the Giants' magical year, they swept the Eagles. Big news since Philly had beaten them 10 of the previous 11. Randall Cunningham missed both of last year's games, but he's won 7 of his last 8 starts against the G-men, so that bodes well for Philly. Let's return now to our Leslie Visser somewhere in the swamps of Jersey. Leslie?
Chris, it was here in this stadium last year that Randall Cunningham broke his ankle. He claims he's 100% recovered from that injury, but there are still questions about his mental and emotional makeup. In the movie The Lion King, we learned that you should go into battle with no worries. But for the Eagles quarterback, everything is not Hakuna Matata.
Randall Cunningham has always enjoyed great skill, the ability to split defenders, to think on the run, to find a man downfield. But some of his former teammates think his question is not of talent, but of leadership.
The strange thing about leadership is a quality that somebody either has or they don't have.
There's different ways of being a leader. You can be a leader vocally, hollering and cursing people out. I'm sorry, that's not me.
When you accept the role as a quarterback, and especially as a quarterback like him, as a superstar quarterback, you also have to accept the responsibility that comes along with it.
You're the coach on the field. You are the captain.
I'd rather come to the side, talk to a guy. If I have to criticize him, I better expect to be criticized later myself.
Ultimately, does it matter if Randall is unconventional? Michael Jackson is odd. Do people say he cannot sing? One former teammate thinks Randall's style does not affect his substance.
He likes to do things differently. You know, he's wearing gold tips on his shoes or whatever. You know, Randall just likes to be different, and a lot of times people perceive that as, you know, in a negative light.
Do you regard yourself as a bit of an eccentric or...
I'm a little crazy. I'm not what people report I am. I don't have an ego problem.
I mean, he probably wants to be the next Arsenio. That's the way his show was.
I'm not self-centered.
He wants to be recognized. You know, when he talks about football, it's I'm this, I did that. I'm surprised, I surprised myself.
I'm not an enigma that can't be figured out. But for the people that I allow to get to know me, they look at me and they see I'm crazy and goofy and silly just like everyone else. It's just that when I'm in front of this camera, I'd like to be professional.
Professional or preoccupied? Some players, like Jim McMahon, feel that Cunningham's interests lie elsewhere.
He's got so many other outside activities going on that football's, you know, pretty much a secondary thing for him. And most guys that play this game, that's their primary concern.
A lot of people play this game for different reasons, you know. Some people play strictly for the money. And then you got guys who play because they just genuinely love the game. And then you got other guys that play for the glory of the game, you know, and the recognition that it gets them.
Where does he fall?
I think probably all three. But I think the recognition part of it is greater.
Few things in the NFL are as elusive as trying to tackle Randall Cunningham. Is he here, or maybe here? While containing Cunningham is an opponent's nightmare, Cunningham's own pursuit, his dream, that of winning a Super Bowl, has been equally elusive.
If he plays well, you know, and he wins a couple of Super Bowls, all of that recognition and all of that stuff that he wants will fall in line.
I'm very anxious for the season to get underway.
He's got to focus himself on football and let all that other stuff take care of itself, and it will. If he wins, it will.
It's worth noting that the Eagles lost only 5 games the past 3 years that Randall started. He has a little bit of a stiff elbow today, a preseason injury, but he told me the best thing about this game is that he won't have number 56, Lawrence Taylor, dogging him throughout the whole game. Randall is an enigmatic man. One NFL head coach told me, I'd hate to coach Randall Cunningham. I hate to coach against him. Chris?
All right, Leslie, thank you. She looks more nimble than Randall Moore, but big pivotal year for Randall, no doubt about it.
Oh, it really is. Hey, they got a new owner in Jeff Lurie with the Philadelphia Eagles. I tell you what, if Randall doesn't win this year, they're going to have a new quarterback next year. His salary jumps from $2.5 million to $4 million. Remember, Lurie tried to trade Randall right at draft time to get Trent Dilfer. Didn't work out. Some of the teams out there say Randall's too brittle. So, Phil, do the Giants go after Randall today?
Mort, I think that would be a nightmare for Mike Nolan, the defensive coordinator of the New York Giants. The last thing they want to do is get in situations where they have to play man coverage or blitz Randall Cunningham today. Because what happens when you blitz or play man-to-man and he breaks that pocket, everybody's back is turned. And Randall, that's the one thing he can do. He can beat you running the football. So they want to keep him in the pocket and make him beat down by throwing the ball down the field. Tom?
Yeah, you're always talking quarterback. I'm always talking D-line. I think most important for the Eagles, they're reborn on their defensive line. Household names have left over the course of the last couple of years. Now they've got Greg Townsend, the Fridge, Andy Harmon, William Fuller. I think they're going to be a lot better up front. Not as good as they were 3 years ago, but much improved.
Well, Rich Kotite's excited about his team now that they're back thinking about the game and not the money problems this week. Well, when we return, 49ers, they have reloaded their defense with Ken Norton and company. Can George Seifert's crew reassume the top spot in the NFC and topple the Cowboys? When we come back on Game Day, nobody knows more about disappointment than the Bills, but they're ready to make it 5 straight Super Bowl appearances. Dan Marino remembers the Super Bowl from 10 years ago. Can he and Don Shula dethrone the Bills? The Broncos have fired up their offense. Is it enough for them to win the West? All that and more coming up.
Because they're helping to build dreams. Because of their spirit of teamwork. The men and women of Home Depot share in the spirit of the Olympics. And to help build better homes,
We're proud to have Black & Decker as a member of our Home Depot Olympic family. Black & Decker tools have been helping you get the job done and done right for over 80 years. They give you their best, just like the U.S. Olympic team and just like the people at Home Depot.
I'm looking forward to the season like a slug looks forward to the rain. I'm talking about the NFL season. I'm talking about brawn and brain. Reggie White, Steve Young, Barry Foster, and players with much longer names. Yeah, I'm looking forward to the season, and especially the two-point conversion. I wrote that.
It's a quarterback fake, and the pitch goes to ESPN. ESPN cuts right and takes the whole college football season and runs with it. Thursday at 8 p.m., it's the Cornhuskers taking on Texas Tech. ESPN College Football. Catch it.
Back on game day. Money. Money, money, money. A big hit by Pink Floyd, and a big hit this year in the NFL due to the salary cap. Ask Wilbur Marshall. He took a $2.5 million pay cut when he moved from the Oilers to rejoin Buddy with the Cards. Mark Rippon took over a $2 million pay hit to be Vinny's backup in Cleveland. Nobody knows more about the salary cap and its consequences than our new colleague, Mr. Sims. But Phil, this is good. You're not alone. See other Pro Bowlers like Tim Harris, Bill Fralick, Charles Mann, Chuck Cecil out of work, not to mention Steve Jordan from Brown University. Who can make some roster moves? Well, no surprise, the Bengals have over $6 million to spend before they reach the cap. The Vikings right now are in the next best shape. Also, no surprise, the 49ers are closest to the cap. But the way they've maneuvered makes team president Carmen Policy the Boris Spassky of the cap. He makes one move, he's got the next three figured out. Rook to pawn 7. Coming up, Dan Marino. How is his leg? Stay with us.
Jose! Morning, Marta. You see these people? They work for Gramercy Press, and their lives are about to change utterly. How? I can't talk about it on the elevator.
Get it moving. And the silver bullet has the taste to keep it moving. Coors Light. Naturally brewed for a taste that goes down easy. Coors Light. Keep on moving.
Seems like a little thing, but when you find a pair of Levi's jeans with a red tab on the back pocket, you found something special. Special denim that's woven a unique and exclusive way. Over 40 separate steps to make just one pair. Amazing. The red tab. It's a little thing, but it makes a big difference. See for yourself at County Seat, the place to go for men's and women's Levi's red tab jeans.
It's an ordinary day at Gramercy Press. Books are getting edited, covers being approved, clandestine romances are clandestine, but the ordinary days are about to end. Why? Gramercy Press